What's going on, everyone? In today's episode, I'm going to share with you one of the simplest seed starting mixes you can make. It's not only going to save you a ton of money, an absolute ton of money, but it's going to give you professional results. Now, you're going to need a few things, and usually you can buy these things in bulk, but the nice thing is because you're going to make a ton of it, you can keep it on hand. You can keep it in a trash bag, keep it in like a trash bucket or one of those sealed plastic tubs for years to come. It does not go bad. It is very simple to make. You're going to save a ton of money. So I highly recommend checking this out because I think you're going to love it. Let's go. So this is a bale of one of our favorite seed starting mixes that we can just buy right off the shelf. This is known as Pro Mix. Now we use Pro Mix all the time, but one of the common bits of feedback we get from all of you is, where do I get it? It can be a little difficult to find depending on where you live. And two, holy cow, that's expensive. So yes, it is not cheap by any means. It is definitely a premium seed starting mix. And a lot of people then ask, okay, if it's a premium seed starting mix, what makes it premium? Well, there's a couple things that makes it premium. One is the texture. The texture is really fine. It's very, very fine, and that makes it very porous. You want it to be porous, but oddly, it's also very well draining. You don't want it to hold on to a lot of water. A lot of seed starting mixes that you find from like big box stores, they are very, very porous, but they're not well draining. We have a video coming up on that pretty soon. Stay tuned for it. You're gonna absolutely love it because it's really gonna break down a lot of the misconceptions that come with buying seed starting mixes from stores. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And so you want a mix that is porous, but well draining. And that's what you're going to get with this because this also has lots of perlite in it as well. Perlite is just an expanded volcanic rock. Now, the other thing that's in this, there's only 3 things in Pro Mix. It is a finely sifted peat moss, which is the medium. That's what you use to grow with. That's what's porous and holds on to water. The perlite adds aeration and drainage. That's the second part to that. And then the third component is a pH buffer. You see, sphagnum moss is very acidic. And because it's very acidic, plants don't really like that all that well. Even if you were growing like a blueberry, a potato, a tomato that can tolerate quite acidic soils, still not as acidic as what sphagnum peat moss is. And so just off the shelf, sphagnum peat moss cannot be grown in alone. If you've ever tried growing in just pure sphagnum peat moss, you'll find out that you end up with pH imbalances. The plants can't uptake nutrients properly, and a lot of bad things happen. Because of that, you have to buffer it. And a buffer is just a way of reducing the acidity. And so they add dolomitic lime. And that's it. There's only 3 things to what most people would regard as one of the best seed starting mixes that exists when it comes to a soilless seed starting mix, which is what we advocate for here on this channel. And so we're going to show you how to make that. It's really incredibly simple just by kind of reverse engineering those 3 ingredients. When it comes to what you're going to need, just like we saw on the back of the Pro Mix bag, we're just going to reverse engineer that. We saw about 75 to 80% by volume being peat moss. So we got this bale of peat moss here. This is 2.2 cubic feet of peat moss we got for just $11. Really affordable. You don't have to go with Sunshine. Sunshine is a really reputable brand, but there's also Lambert, which makes a really good peat moss as well. I know you're going to say, there's a lot of people are going to say, yeah, but Luke, I thought peat moss was a non-renewable resource. It used to be. A lot of the peat moss comes from Canada. Most comes from Canada. And the Canadian government has really put some very strict regulations into, not only harvesting practices, but also farming practices. There's actually more peat moss more peat bogs being planted than actually is being harvested from. And so while this is definitely, still for a lot of people, it's kind of a contentious issue. Technology and science has really adapted to make this a lot more sustainable than it used to be. And so I feel very comfortable using it, but you can also always use coco coir. Coco coir is just a compressed coconut husk fiber. And you can just skip the dolomitic lime, add the perlite. It's a little bit more expensive. There's some nuance to using it, but it's a great alternative resource. I have absolutely nothing wrong with coco coir whatsoever. So we got the sphagnum peat moss. Next, lime. Now, the question always comes up, should I go with micronized lime or pelletized lime? If you can find micronized lime, absolutely all day, every day, it's a better choice. It is a better choice because of the surface area. You have more surface area when it's ground finely. This is just from True Organic. It's what they had at our local big box store, and it's pelletized. It makes it really easy, and it's also far less dusty. So it's a little safer to use because lime dust can be kind of not the best to breathe in. So get micronized if you can find it. Limestone powder, crushed powder. Otherwise, the pelletized is still gonna work pretty good. And then we have here, which we got, you'd think it's really heavy based on the size of the bag, but it's actually very light. This is perlite. We got perlite here. We got this from our local hydroponics store. This whole bag was 25 bucks. Very affordable. And so what you're seeing here, okay, so this is what's wild, right? This is absolutely crazy. These bags of seed starting mix can sometimes cost you, they can sometimes cost you $50, $75, even $100 for those bales of Pro Mix, which I love, absolutely love. I'm not taking away from that. But this cost us less than 20 bucks, like with tax, I think it was like $15. $25. So we're up to like, let's say 40 bucks. $5. $45 for what will make 2 times, 3 times the amount of seed starting mix for half the cost. So it's a really great way to save a ton of money. Let's get started. Those are the only 3 things you're really gonna need. And then you're gonna need a bucket to mix it, some water. We're gonna get rocking. So we put a good amount of the sphagnum moss in here, just a few chunks. We're gonna hydrate it so that it kind of breaks it apart a little easier because it's all compressed. So you're gonna wanna get some water on hand. Warm water actually works best. Fun little fact. Cold water has a tendency to kind of beat up and kind of bubble up, whereas warm water kind of penetrates the compressed peat moss a little bit better. And then we're gonna add some of our dolomitic lime. So while there's not like a really set measurement for how much lime to add, typically you're gonna add roughly, to this amount here, this is probably about 10 to 12 quarts of soil. You're gonna add probably about a half a cup to a cup of dolomitic lime because you wanna pH balance this to around 6.5, so it's fairly neutral. There we go. We're gonna mix that up. So just a quick note, obviously results are gonna vary here, but we did this when it was below freezing out and the peat moss was sitting outside at the in the yard that we bought it. And so it was like a solid frozen brick. So it definitely took a little bit to get kind of broken up and get a good consistency. Let it just sit inside and thaw if it's frozen. It's not worth freezing your hands off, but it's ready now to accept the final ingredient, which is our perlite. Right now, it is just some dolomitic lime and peat moss. And what you'll notice is there's no pelletized dolomitic lime. That's what I really like about pre-moistening your mix, is it actually breaks up and dissolves that pelletized lime, and it actually becomes just as if it was powdered. It's just the powdered doesn't need to be broken up, so you don't have to like really work it and mix it around a lot for that to happen. Kind of will do that naturally, but either way you get the same result. Just is so phenomenal. You cannot find a single bit of pelletized lime in here. And the great thing is that this is now going to be a pH of around 6 to 6.5, which most plants absolutely love. So now we got that all mixed up and ready to rock. It's pre-hydrated, pre-moistened. Those frozen little bits of peat moss will eventually kind of finish breaking up in there, but we're gonna add the perlite now, which is the final ingredient. That's gonna add our aeration and our drainage. If you remember correctly, the label did say it was gonna be about 75 to 85% perlite. That means we need to add about 15 to 20% by volume. Now, perlite is an expanded volcanic rock. It is not great to breathe the dust. Definitely try to pre-moisten, if possible, your perlite so that you don't have perlite dust in the air. And we are done. Obviously, we're just gonna do a few more little mixes here to kind of evenly incorporate everything. One thing you'll notice is, you'll notice a couple things. You'll notice that it's probably a lot lighter, right? It's probably a lot lighter. That's because of the grade of perlite that we used. Now, I went with about 10 to 15% by volume of perlite, just like the Pro Mix does, but because I did not vary my size, my grade of perlite, because I wanted to save money, I didn't want to buy 2 different sizes. I have what's considered a fine grade perlite. It's awesome for seed starting. Absolutely nothing wrong with using this for seed starting. This is actually a very nice mix. I would feel so confident starting my seeds in this. They're gonna absolutely love this. But if you wanted it to look exactly like perlite, they use 2 different grades. They use a fine grade, and they also use a kind of like a medium grade. You can go coarse if you want, but coarse ends up being rather large chunks of perlite. And you'll find that sometimes, depending on how you're seed starting, it might actually be not quite as desirable. So I just go with a fine grade, fine to medium. You don't have to follow that like it's the law. It's just, it just adds that airiness and that well-draining kind of nature to the soil, to the growing medium, I should say. It's not soil, it's just a soilless mix. So there's no compost in this, there's no forest humus, there's no mushroom compost, worm castings, none of that in here. And that basically allows for us to have a really sterile mix that's going to accept whatever fertilizer we're going to add, which in our case is going to be Trifecta Plus. When we go to plant our seeds, we're just going to add a little bit of that in there, and that's going to add the beneficial bacteria, the fungi, the macronutrients, micronutrients that the plants are going to love. And so yes, like I said, at face value, comparing the two, this is going to look like it has a lot more perlite in it than ProMix does, but there is just as much by volume as what ProMix has. It's just because it's a much smaller texture, much smaller particle size, it looks like there's a lot more of it. But there you go. There's your seed starting mix. So there you go. There is how you can take about $40, $45 in materials and you can make $200, $300 worth of seed starting mix, because what you'll notice is we made a whole bin full of seed starting mix. We barely dented this bale of peat moss here. For less than 20 bucks, we got this bale of peat moss, and this thing is maybe a 1/6 gone. I like literally maybe 20% of it's been gone. Maybe not even that. About a cup's worth of the dolomitic lime. Still a ton left. We probably only used maybe like 10% of this bag. So that, that was $5. We used, I don't know what, 50 cents worth. Like, it's absolutely incredible. And the perlite, we got that whole thing for 25 bucks. We might have used, probably again, maybe 10% of the bag. So like $2.50 worth. It's just absolutely amazing how much money you can save by making it yourself. And I will say this in closing, that the number one thing gardeners make a mistake of when they're making their seed starting mix is forgetting this right here. This dolomitic lime is the difference maker. It absolutely is. You cannot go out and just buy a bag of peat moss, throw some perlite in, and call it good. You just can't. You will not get the results you're looking for. It will not be good to start seeds in. It will not be good to grow in long term. It is just not good. And so it is a simple little thing. But if you look on the back of every very reputable seed starting mix that contains peat moss, it also contains a pH buffer, which is usually dolomitic lime. So I hope you guys will try this. I hope you all will save a ton of money if you're not going out and buying your own, or you're buying, if you're not buying your seed starting mix, I hope you're making your own and saving a ton of money. Let me know in the comments box down below if you have tried this. If you do try this, let me know the results you get. And I think, honestly, this is going to be a game changer for a lot of you, especially those that are trying to garden on a budget this year. I know I'm included. I had some bags left over from last year, but honestly, this year, based on how our budget's going, I probably would end up just making it myself. So it's worth the effort, worth the time, the cost to do it. I hope you'll try it. And if you have any other questions, feel free to post them in the comments box down below. Throw a like up there if you did enjoy, and make sure to subscribe if you have not yet done that, because we're just getting started with gardening content, and it's gonna be a great year. So as always, this is Luke from the My Gardener channel, reminding you to grow bigger. We'll catch you later. See ya. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider clicking this one. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I want to thank you for your viewership, because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. Also, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. It's free, and we upload videos every Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. We also have vegetable seeds, fertilizer, or tools. If you need any of those, consider visiting mygardener.com. Links will be in the description box below. We've got you covered. And as always, we'll see you all in the garden. Take care. Bye.